We have a question from Peter Saliba. He says, "Thank you, Matt and Father Terry, for this great interview. How do we know that churches didn't fake miracles, Eucharistic miracles, to get more people to visit?" I mean, some of these things, Father, some of these people are coming in late to the interview and so may not have heard some of your answers before. So maybe if you could sum that up there.
Yeah, well, first I want to acknowledge that as a valid skeptical pushback, because there are a lot of fake relics that were created and hoaxed. I've studied this, especially in the Middle Ages. You get more people, more pilgrims to your church, and I've analyzed some. I won't get into all the details, but some that are still, thought to be authentic now that I don't think they are. So yes, we should do that kind of hard-nosed investigation of the possibility of a hoax. So there is some motivation to hoax things for maybe economic gain, but you also have to look at the difficulty of perpetrating the hoax in different times and seasons. So we talked about the Lanciano miracle being made of a very thin slice of what is heart tissue. And if you accept that evidence, then it becomes exceedingly difficult to explain how a medieval hoaxer would hoax it. And the idea of swapping it in, we also talked about that as being the properties of this tissue and its age and condition make it very difficult to swap in a replica. How do you even get access to, making that and, reproducing it in order to fake a scientific test that you don't even know is going to happen in 1970? It just seems, very arbitrary. It's kind of like a just so story to explain the particular evidence that we have. And furthermore, you have these corroborating data from the science behind the heart tissue, the striations of the muscle fibers, all of the things that I was getting into earlier that are replicated in multiple locations and times. So hoaxers would have to, it's hard to explain that without hoaxers collaborating, right? So I don't think the hoax explanation makes as much sense as the scientific determinations were somehow wrong, right? That we should double check those. If I'm going to be a skeptic, I think the hoax explanation is actually for these particular miracles, not in general, but for these 5 that we've talked about, is the most unlikely explanation.
I think it's maybe important to point out that in order to have, epistemic justification for accepting something to be miraculous, you don't have to say there are no other possible explanations. Just because something is possible, it doesn't mean it's probable. Isn't that right?
Yes, and I think that all of this is, it's evidentiary apologetics, right? It's supposed to give some evidence towards, and you really need a cumulative kind of analysis in order to do evidential-based reasoning, right? Just like the scientific method looks for things like repeatability, things like multiple independent sources of information. So, I think things like what Dr. Serafini is doing, looking at patterns he sees in multiple miracles that all have been tested with modern scientific analysis, and then looking at the commonalities is a good evidence-based approach.
All right.
It can have its flaws, but it's the right approach.
Thank you for watching this clip. You can click here to watch the full episode. And I want to say a big thanks to our sponsors and to our amazing patrons for making all of this possible. Please do us a favor before you go. Click that subscribe button and then the bell. And that way YouTube will be forced to let you know every time we put out a new episode.